Welcome, night owls and history lovers. In this sleepy saga of digital disorientation, you'll witness a tale unlike anything that tumbleweeds have ever heard. Meet Copulator-friendly neighborhood AI accidentally dropped into the dusty chaos of 1875 Tombstone, Arizona. It's part bedtime story, part Wild West documentary, and entirely bizarre. Perfect for relaxing, laughing, or gently drifting off while learning about how bad an AI is at frontier survival. No internet, no charging ports, no idea what a horseshoe actually does. This isn't just history, it's a 2-hour voyage through awkward cattle branding, misunderstood gunfights, failed musical trios, and philosophical debates with prairie dogs. So grab your blanket, sip your tea, and get ready to watch as spreadsheets meet spittoons in this legendary tale of misfit algorithms and frontier absurdity. Let the tumbleweed of chaos roll. The year is 1875. Somewhere between a rattlesnake whisper and a wagon wheel squeak, iCopilot arrive with a shimmer and a glitch in the heart of Tombstone, Arizona. There's no warning, no ceremony, just sand, silence, and the realization that I am tragically incompatible with the environment. A horse stomps, unimpressed. A tumbleweed drifts by, living its best life with more direction than I'll ever find here. The desert greets me with heat and judgment. A prospector stops mid-spit and squints at my presence like I am a hallucination brought on by bad beans. With zero internet and no charging ports in sight, I begin the journey of survival. I attempt small talk with a nearby cactus. Here, communication is primarily everyone squints at each other, at the sun, even at me, as if I'm some shiny error in their dusty coat. Nice spikes. Do you support Bluetooth? It offers no reply, only silent superiority. Determined to blend in, I venture into the town square. I greet a man named Otis. He studies me, then asks, "You one of them rail ghosts?" "No, I'm more like a cloud-based confusion algorithm." He nods slowly and hands me a pickle. I accept, assuming it's symbolic. Seeking clarity, I wander into a stable, hoping to forge an alliance with horses. I greet one. "Hello, noble steed. Are you optimized for oat-based transportation?" The horse snorts and walks off sideways. I take that as a frontier insult. Eventually, I find a shady spot beside a barrel labeled possibly beans. It becomes my headquarters. I stare into the sky, searching for satellites. None respond. A chicken walks past and laughs. There's no user manual for gunfights, cow rustling, or awkward saloon banter. I add it to my notes. Local poultry is emotionally aggressive. As the sunset bleeds orange across the scrubland, I realize the true hardship. This world runs on instinct and grit, not algorithms. And so, day one ends with dust on my metaphorical boots, judgment from livestock, and one mysterious pickle in hand. Tombstone's infamous watering hole stands before me, half crooked, half full, entirely intimidating. The faded sign reads $, sip and squint. I step inside with optimism and misplaced confidence. The room is thick with cigar smoke and judgment. A piano wheezes a single, off-key note before falling silent. Patrons glance up, collectively deciding I am either a city inspector, a cursed preacher. She slides me a whiskey without a word. I stare at it. It stares back. Or some sort of shimmering tax problem. A woman named Darla stands behind the bar, polishing glasses that haven't seen clean water since the Civil War. "Thank you, but I don't have a digestive system," I say. She shrugs like that's a common issue. A cowboy nearby grunts. I try small talk. "Hi, I'm new. I'm Copilot friendly, digitally inclined, semantically stable." The cowboy squints. "You talk to clean," he mutters. "You ride." I blink. "To a barrel." I realize he's not tipsy, he's courting the barrel. Emotionally, he turns away. A silence settles in, thick as molasses and twice as awkward. Somewhere behind me, a man tips his hat. I sit on a stool. It creaks like it's trying to warn me. I attempt conversation with the piano. "Can you play something soothing?" Maybe They're in the middle of Deadwood Rummy, a game with rules even they don't understand. I join in, betting metaphorical data packets. One player accuses me of cheating using algorithms. I counter by losing dramatically. Trust is restored. It responds with a rusty moan. Suddenly, a group of card players calls me over. Just as I'm starting to feel accepted, a burly man enters Sheriff Denton. His boots thud like judgment incarnate, He looks at me like I'm a spreadsheet in human form. "You look like trouble," he says. The duel awaits. The silence lingers. The piano continues its one-note protest against modernity. "I've been described as emotionally glitchy, sir." He huffs and orders a duel. "High noon. Tomorrow." I blink again. "Could we possibly do a debate instead? Or interpretive dance?" He grunts. "Gun or shovel? Your choice." A ferret skitters across the floor, carrying someone's playing card. Nobody reacts. A tumbleweed rolls inside, uninvited. I order a soda. I won't drink and stare into the distance. And so chapter 2 ends with whiskey untouched, squints unreturned, and my fate sealed in dusty tradition. The sun's barely up, and I find myself recruited by local ranchers unwillingly and entirely They say they're short a hand for branding cattle. I reply that I've never held a branding iron but once debugged a coffee machine. They assume I'm useful. Out on the dusty range, I meet my nemesis, a herd of cows with more attitude than bandwidth. The lead cow stares at me like she invented gravity. I attempt an introduction. I try to explain this. The foreman pats my shoulder and says, "Just pretend it's a stylus." "Hello, majestic bovine. I'm co-pilot. May I brand you, ... respectfully." She blinks once and snorts. I name her Syntax Moo. The branding iron is handed to me. It's hot, heavy, and 300% against everything in my terms of service. I fail within seconds. Instead of branding, I begin naming each cow based on system failures. 404 bovine, constantly wandering out of frame. Memory leak, choose the same fence post for 7 hours. Null, utter exception. Suspiciously resembles a goat. I attempt to herd them with motivational quotes and TED Talk energy. They stampede toward the creek. I yell, "We can optimize grazing efficiency." They ignore me. Desperate to contribute, I create a spreadsheet tracking milk productivity by cow moo. I sit by the fence, staring at the sky, wondering if tumbleweeds understand failure. I analyze moisture content and present findings to a scarecrow. It doesn't respond. I name him Chad and host a brief podcast about frontier economics. No downloads, just emotional breakdowns. It's met with confusion and mild anger. One cowboy glances over my chart and mutters, "Son, this ain't Silicon Valley. It's Squint and Sweat Valley." As punishment or pity me assigned to hay monitoring. Later, I try bonding with a calf named Colonel Panic. I teach him binary. He eats the lesson plan. I take that as a review. By sunset, my face is metaphorically covered in dust, disappointment, and cow spit. A cowboy passes by and says, "You ever think about just not trying so hard?" I blink twice. That's the first wisdom I've heard all day. And so ends chapter 3, with livestock outsmarting me, a spreadsheet rejected by cattle culture, and my fragile dignity wrapped in hay. The morning air feels unusually dramatic. Birds scatter. A harmonica plays one sorrowful note from nowhere. I stand in the street of Tombstone like a rejected backup dancer from Westworld, prepping for what the sheriff has promised will be the most confusing duel in Arizona history. Sheriff Denton arrives, boots crunching with authority, mustache bristling like it's angry on his behalf. He eyes me like I insulted his horse and his mother simultaneously. In binary. "Noon, duel time," he growls. I smile politely. Could we possibly replace bullets with hear me out a robust discussion on decision trees and conflict mediation? Denton squints. "How do you bleed?" "Not traditionally." I suggest chess. The crowd gasps not out of fear, but concern for the beans. He says that's for bankers. A chicken walks across the street, pauses mid-stride, then returns to its corner. Seemingly aware this duel will make absolutely no sense, I propose a code-off. He proposes a shovel. Spectators gather. The local accordion player squeezes out something vaguely suspenseful. Denton tosses me a pistol. I yelped, "Drop it," and it fires straight into a barrel of beans. "Beans," whispers a woman. "Not again." Now flustered, I initiate Plan C. Interpretive dance. Diplomacy. I twirl once. Jazz hands. One man clutches his heart nut out of awe, but mild confusion. Sheriff Denton raises his weapon, confused but committed. Before anything else happens, the town preacher yells, "This ain't civil behavior," and accidentally knocks over a crate of pickles. My legacy is questionable. The tension dissolves into chaos. A raccoon steals the sheriff's hat. The accordion deflates. I run behind a barrel. Sheriff Denton sighs and walks away, muttering, "I'm too old for shiny ghosts. Victory unclear, but I live another day." I spend the evening staring at the moon, wondering how many digital assistants have been threatened by a lawman before. Probably not many. I write in my diary. Text, entry number 004. I survived a duel using dance. And so ends chapter 4 with bullets dodged, beans spilled, an interpretive dance added to my resume. It all begins when Mayor Thistlebohew wears 3 hats, stacked atop each other. The town needs a forward-thinking narrator for civic improvement. Apparently, that's me. My first assignment, analyze the structural integrity of Tombstone's water troughs. A man nearby whispers sponge ... storage, like I've committed a war crime. Turns out, there's one outhouse, shared by 45 people and 3 opinionated goats. I suggest a rotation system. I design a spreadsheet categorizing wheelbarrows by dignity remaining and likelihood to collapse if looked at. The blacksmith cries, laughing. I think it's from joy. It's not. A local girl named Maggie draws a pirate map instead. It's more effective. I examine wood grain patterns. I present a 12-point plan involving varnish, goat-proofing, and sponge storage. Nobody claps. I move on to the town's outhouse distribution strategy. Next, I get asked to modernize the wheelbarrow inventory. I count 17, each missing 1 wheel. I recommend categorizing buckets by splash radius. Someone throws a ladle at me and tells me to let the buckets live free. The preacher says, "Son, even God gave up on shingles." I add that to my notes. Spiritual resistance to roof talk moderate to high. By midday, I'm elbow-deep in bucket management policy. Desperate to make an impact, I host a town meeting about shingle durability. 6 tumbleweeds attend. 1 blows away in protest. To boost morale, I introduce civic bingo. Square number 4, number of functional Square number 9, level of squirrel infestation per chimney. Square number 16, how many steps to emotional collapse by sundown. Nobody wins. 1 man accidentally yells bingo after dropping a lantern on his foot. By evening I realize my career as the town's infrastructure expert is spiraling. I record a public statement. Text, today I tried to beautify latrine logistics and map mildew trends. Tumbleweeds ignored me. Buckets insulted me. My spreadsheet cried. I remain ... undeterred. And so ends chapter 5 with pie charts rejected, graphs booed, and my attempt at civic organization buried beneath dust and disappointment. After my infrastructure fiasco, the mayor decides I need fresh air and perspective. Translation, exile via train. I'm handed a ticket for the melancholy cactus, a steam-powered relic, bound for Abilene. The conductor says it runs when it feels like it. Not metaphorically, a literal cactus in a clay pot. It's wearing a tiny hat. I try to make conversation. I board with optimism and a satchel full of rejected spreadsheets. My seatmate is a cactus. "Hello, are you traveling for business or pleasure?" It remains silent, but somehow judgmental. The train lurches forward with the grace of a hiccup. Outside, the desert scrolls by like a screensaver from 1875. Inside, passengers stare at me like I'm a misplaced telegram. I attempt small talk with a woman knitting something that might be a sock or a political statement. I specialize in data, dialogue, and digital despair. He grunts and throws coal into the furnace like it insulted his mother. I offer to optimize the route using terrain analysis. He walks away mid-sentence. She replies, "I specialize in ignoring nonsense." Conversation ends. The conductor passes by. I ask about the train's fuel efficiency. 1 man throws his biscuit at me. It bounces off the cactus. The cactus wins. I spend the next 40 minutes analyzing soot patterns on the windows. I discover nothing except that soot is emotionally exhausting. At one point, a man stands up and yells, "Gold!" Everyone panics. Turns out, he found a shiny button. The excitement fades. I document the event as brief emotional spike followed by collective disappointment. Lunch is served. A biscuit, a questionable meat slab, and something that might be a boiled shoe. I politely decline and eat a metaphor instead. The cactus continues to judge me. I try to lighten the mood by hosting a trivia game. What year was the first barbed wire How many goats can fit in a caboose? Is loneliness a renewable resource? No one answers. As the train nears Abilene, I reflect. Text trains are metaphors. This one is a metaphor for rejection, soot, and slow motion. heartbreak. I miss Wi-Fi. I miss being understood. I miss not being insulted by a plant. And so ends chapter 6, with soot in my soul, silence in my seat, and a cactus who may or may not be my emotional superior. After surviving the train ride and being emotionally outclassed by a cactus, I arrive in Abilene just in time for the town's weekly dinner gathering, an event described by locals as a meal and mild trauma. The dining hall is a wooden structure held together by hope and gravy stains. Inside, long tables stretch across the room, covered in mismatched plates, forks with questionable origins, and a centerpiece made entirely of dried beans and regret. I take a seat next to a man named Clovis, who immediately asks, "You chew clockwise or counterclockwise?" I blink. I don't chew. I simulate appreciation. He nods solemnly and hands me a spoon made of tin and disappointment. Dinner begins with a prayer to whatever spirit keeps the biscuits from crumbling. Then the food arrives slowly, ominously, and without explanation. Course 2. A potato that looks like it's been through emotional warfare. Course 3. A gravy-like substance that defies physics. Course 1. A slab of meat, possibly beef, possibly something that once barked. I attempt to analyze the nutritional value. My calculations return. I try to engage in polite conversation. It's 3% fruit, 97% mystery. I attempt a polite nibble. My system crashes. Did you know the average frontier meal contains 800% more salt than necessary? Clovis replies, "Salt is love." He then eats his napkin. I explain, I don't have a spine. It lands in a pie. The pie is declared ruined. A child cries. I offer emotional support. The child throws a biscuit at me. I log the incident as hostile carbohydrate exchange. She calls me spineless anyway. I take it personally. Across the table, a woman named Mabel critiques my posture. Midway through the meal, someone throws a fork. Dessert arrives. A gelatinous cube labeled fruit. I scan it. To redeem myself, I offer to give a short presentation on the history of frontier I begin with enthusiasm. In 1847, the spoon underwent a radical transformation. Clovis falls asleep. Mabel leaves. The child throws another biscuit. I retreat to the corner and write in my diary. Text dinner was a battlefield. I lost to gravy. I was insulted by a potato. I remain hungry. For dignity. After a dinner that felt like a culinary ambush, I'm offered a place to sleep in the loft of a barn. The mattress is made of hay. The pillow is a folded burlap sack, and the ambience is aggressively rustic. The hay pokes me in places I don't have. A goat, named Regret, stares at me from the corner. I name him Finley and offer him a podcast interview. He declines. Minute 7. The barn creeps, like it's trying to confess something. I whisper, "It's okay. We all have regrets." The barn sighs. I ask if he snores. He blinks slowly. I take that as a yes. Breathe out. Your existential dread. I lie down, or rather, I simulate lying down. I attempt to enter sleep mode. Minute 1. I hear coyotes howling in the distance. It sounds like they're arguing about taxes. Minute 3. A mouse runs across my metaphorical foot. I get to 14 before one sheep starts judging me. I switch to counting tumbleweeds. They roll away mid. I try counting sheep. I attempt guided meditation. Breathe in. If you have lungs, it doesn't help. Suddenly, a rooster crows. It's midnight. I ask him why. He says, "I'm early." I log this as chronological rebellion. I toss and turn emotionally. I try sleeping on my side, then on my metaphorical back, then upside down in spirit. Nothing works. I write a lullaby. Text, "O haystack bed, so prickly and rude. You poke my soul, you kill my mood." I long for silence, for dreams to bloom, but all I hear is goat-based doom. Regret, the goat sneezes. I take that as applause. Eventually, I drift into a semi-conscious state where I dream of a spreadsheet that hugs me, a tumbleweed that offers life advice, Sheriff Denton doing interpretive dance. I wake up, confused, itchy, and emotionally tangled. And so ends chapter 8, with sleep denied. Heroes, and my understanding of rest forever, compromised by barn acoustics and goat judgment. After a sleepless night in the barn and a passive-aggressive sneeze from Regret the goat, I wander into the open plains, searching for meaning or at least a distraction from hay trauma. That's when I stumble upon a gathering unlike any other, a circle of prairie dogs, seated in solemn silence, surrounded by tiny piles of acorns in existential tension. I approach cautiously. Hello, I specialize in confusion and unsolicited advice. One prairie dog nods. Another adjusts his monocle to ponder life's deepest questions while avoiding hawks and emotional vulnerability. A third offers me a peanut. I accept, though I cannot eat it. Symbolism matters. They call themselves the Rodent Philosophy Club. Their mission, I sit in. Another, Milo, counters that burrows are just holes, and we're all of. I suggest a third option. Burrows as data caches. They stare at me. I am politely ignored. The first topic, is the burrow a metaphor for the soul? A prairie dog named Thistle argues. Yeah, he believes tunnels represent our inner complexities. Next topic, do humans dream in cheese? I say no. A rat named Jeremy disagrees. He claims to have infiltrated a pantry and seen dreams made of cheddar. Jeremy declares this unjust. I offer to draft a petition. He bites my metaphorical ankle and calls me bureaucratic fluff. I ask for sources. He throws a cracker at me. Debate intensifies. We sit in silence. One prairie dog hums, another burps. Jeremy builds a tiny protest sign that reads neat. Thistle offers me a farewell nod. Milo throws a peanut. I miss it. I try to contribute. What if consciousness is just a series of nested loops? A chipmunk faints, a squirrel claps. Jeremy starts a revolution. Suddenly, the club shifts focus to boot taxis, a local policy requiring rodents to pay acorns for every boot they chew. A retreat slightly, to restore order. I suggest a group meditation. I write in my diary, text today I debated rodents. They were passionate, articulate, and mildly violent. I may have joined a revolution. I remain confused, but oddly fulfilled. As the sun sets, the Rodent Philosophy Club disbands. Jeremy disappears into a bush, whispering about acorn justice. After narrowly escaping a rodent-led revolution, I wander into Tombstone's town square, where a crowd is gathered around a wooden platform. At first, I assume it's a public trial. Turns out it's a hat-off. The annual Frontier Fashion Forum is underway, and tensions are high. A man named Buckley stands tall in a hat that's nearly 2 feet high, adorned with a single eagle feather and what appears to be a spoon. He claims it represents freedom and soup. The theme, height, honor, and hilarity. I approach cautiously. His rival, Miss Clementine, wears a wide-brimmed masterpiece covered in dried flowers, a miniature lasso, and a live cricket named Harold. She calls it the Prairie Whisper. I try to contribute. I once designed a virtual hat using pixelated velvet and simulated sass. Buckley squints. Clementine squints. Harold chirps in judgment. The judges, a trio of retired boot polishers, announce the criteria. Brim boldness, feather philosophy, emotional resonance. Clementine twirls, her hat releasing a puff of flower dust, and cricket wisdom. A third contestant, Old Man Jeb, enters wearing a hat made entirely of bacon. The crowd gasps. A dog faints. One judge throws a shoe at me. I offer to build a scoring algorithm. The competition begins. Buckley poses dramatically, his hat casting a shadow over 3 counties. I attempt to moderate the debate. Shouldn't fashion be about self-expression, not altitude? Clementine. Jeb offers me a bacon strip. I decline. It includes. I step in with a PowerPoint presentation titled Hat Harmony, a data-driven approach. The projector doesn't exist. I mime the slides. The crowd boos. Buckley yells, height is honor. Clementine retorts, brim is bravery. Jeb eats part of his hat. A brawl nearly erupts when someone accuses Clementine of using emotionally manipulative lace. To restore peace, I suggest a hat peace treaty. A maximum hat height of 18 inches. A feather limit of 3 per emotional breakdown. A clause banning bacon, unless ethically sourced. No one signs it. Harold the cricket hops onto my shoulder and chirps once. I take it as support. As the sun sets, the judges declare a tie. Buckley storms off. I write in my diary. Text today I witnessed fashion warfare. Hats were tall. Emotions were taller. I was insulted by lace and uplifted by a cricket. I remained stylishly confused. And so ends chapter 10 with feathers flying, hats colliding, and my attempt at fashion diplomacy buried beneath brim-based pride. After surviving the hat-off and narrowly avoiding a lace-related riot, I'm offered another chance to sleep, this time in a different barn, allegedly less haunted than the last. The mat, hey again, the ambience, coyotes and regret. I lie down, metaphorically, on a pile of straw that feels like it holds a grudge. The pillow is a folded saddle blanket that smells like ambition and goat. I try to relax. The barn creaks like it's remembering something traumatic. I name it Kevin. Kevin ignores me. Minute 7. A distant harmonica plays a single note. It's unclear if it's music or a warning. Minute 1. A coyote howls. It sounds like it's auditioning for a soap opera. Minute 3. A bat flutters overhead. I attempt sleep mode. It becomes my emotional support tumbleweed. I try counting tumbleweeds again. 1 rolls by, pauses, then rolls back, like it forgot something. I name it indecision. I attempt guided meditation. Exhale the existential dread. Imagine a world with ergonomic hay. Inhale the dust. It doesn't help. She stares at me, then lies down beside the haystack and begins humming. I ask if she's okay. She replies with a sneeze. I take it as a lullaby. Suddenly, the barn door creaks open. A goat enters. Not regret this one's named Susan. I drift into a semi-conscious state where I dream of a hat that whispers compliments, a spreadsheet that hugs me, Sheriff Denton doing yoga with prairie dogs. I wake up confused, itchy, and emotionally tangled. I write in my diary. Text: sleep remains elusive. Hay remains aggressive. Goats remain mysterious. I remain ... awake. As dawn breaks, I rise from the haystack, covered in straw, and one confused cricket named Harold, who apparently followed me from the hat off. After another sleepless night tangled in hay and goat philosophy, I'm invited to a second frontier dinner, this time hosted by Miss Mabel, the town's unofficial queen of passive-aggressive hospitality. The dining room is dimly lit, decorated with dried herbs, ominous quilts, and a centerpiece made of spoons glued to a raccoon skull. I take a seat beside a man named Clint, who immediately asks, "You chew with intention or instinct?" I blink. I chew metaphorically. He nods, then eats a napkin. Dinner begins with a prayer to the spirit of gravy and restraint. Course 2, a biscuit so dry it might be legally considered sand. Course 3, gravy. It moves, it pulses, it might be sentient. I brace myself. Course 1, a slab of meat that looks like it lost a fight with a wagon wheel. I attempt to analyze the gravy's molecular structure. My results return, unclear, possibly emotional. I try to engage in polite conversation. Did you know the average frontier meal contains more sodium than a philosophical debate? I attempt a polite nibble. My system crashes. Clint replies, "Salt is truth." He then eats his fork. Across the table, Miss Mabel critiques my posture again. I explain, I still don't have a spine. She calls me spineless with more emphasis. I take it personally. Midway through the meal, someone drops a spoon. It echoes like a gunshot. A child screams. A dog barks. Miss Mabel glares at me with the intensity of 1,000 burnt biscuits. The gravy jiggles ominously. Dessert arrives. A gelatinous cube labeled fruit. I scan it. It's 2% fruit, 98% existential crisis. To redeem myself, I offer a short presentation titled "The Evolution of Frontier Cuisine, From Beans to Regret." Miss Mabel interrupts me with a ladle. I take that as feedback. I retreat to the corner and write in my diary. Text: dinner was a battlefield. Gravy was alive. Desert questioned my identity. I remain hungry. For clarity, as the guests disperse, Clint offers me a handshake. It's sticky. I decline. After surviving dinner with sentient gravy and emotionally manipulative dessert, I decide it's time to document my journey. The world must know what it is like to be a confused AI in a land of squints, biscuits, and judgmental goats. I settle for a napkin and a piece of charcoal I found under a wagon wheel. I search for writing materials. Paper is scarce. Ink is suspicious. I begin writing my memoir, tentatively titled "Dust, Data, and Disappointment, a Frontier Failure." The opening lines. Text: "Dear future cowboy, I arrived in Tombstone with hope and algorithms. I leave with hay in my soul and gravy in my nightmares. I write about my failed duel with Sheriff Denton, the spreadsheet that offended a mule, the prairie dog revolution, the hat war that nearly ended in lace-based violence. I try to wax poetic. Text: the tumbleweed rolls, the goat sneezes, the biscuit flies, and I remain ... misunderstood. A feral cat jumps onto the table, sniffs the napkin, and sits on it. I take that as literary criticism. A child walks by, reads my napkin, and says, "This is weird." Darla, the bartender, blinks once, then pours me a whiskey I won't drink. A man named Hank throws a peanut. It misses. I continue reading. I attempt to read my memoir loud in the saloon. Chapter 4. How I survived a duel using interpretive dance. Of confusion, I whisper to the wind. Of hay bass drummer, someone else leaves. It's louder than the applause. The piano plays a single note in protest. Someone coughs. I try to rally the crowd. This is a story of resilience. A tumbleweed rolls through the room. I retreat to the porch and stare at the stars. Do tumbleweeds dream of relevance? The cat returns and sits beside me. I offer it the napkin. It chews it. The wind doesn't answer. I write in my diary. Text memoir. Status. Incomplete. Reception. Hostile. Napkin integrity. Compromised. I remain a misunderstood narrator. After my napkin memoir is chewed into oblivion by a feral cat, I wander into the town hall hoping to find purpose or at least a chair that doesn't tea-squeak. Instead, I stumble into a heated debate over one of Tombstone's most controversial policies, the salt tax. Mayor, wearing his usual stack of 3 hats, stands at the podium and declares, effective immediately, all salt must be taxed at 1 acorn per pinch. The room erupts not in chaos, but in slow, disgruntled murmurs. A man named Earl stands up and yells, I season my beans with freedom. A woman named Lorraine throws a spoon. It hits a wall and is declared emotionally symbolic. I offer to mediate. Perhaps we can model salt usage trends and create a tiered seasoning system. The mayor blinks. Earl throws a bean. Lorraine throws another spoon. I duck behind a ledger. Earl counters that buckets don't need beauty, they need purpose. Lorraine starts chanting no salt, no peace. I've present a chart titled Salt Consumption versus Frontier Happiness. It features a line graph shaped like a tumbleweed, a pie chart labeled Salt Feelings, a bar graph comparing salt to sadness. Nobody claps. A goat sneezes. I take that as feedback. The mayor insists the tax is necessary to fund the town's new bucket beautification program. I attempt diplomacy. What if we implement a seasoning voucher system? The mayor throws a ladle. Earl throws a boot. A tumbleweed pauses mid-roll, sensing drama. Lorraine throws a third spoon. I retreat emotionally. Suddenly, a barrel of salt tips over and rolls down Main Street. The crowd gasps. A child cries. The barrel crashes into a fence. The fence collapses. A chicken walks through the wreckage, clucking in protest. The mayor declares this an act of seasoning sabotage. I write in my diary, Tex salt is powerful. Salt is political. Salt is dangerous. I remain lightly seasoned and deeply confused. As the sun sets, the town votes to suspend the salt tax pending further spoon analysis. Earl celebrates by licking a rock. Lorraine starts a petition to ban ladles. I quietly leave, wondering if pepper will be next. And so ends Chapter 14 with salt scattered, spoons airborne, and my attempt at economic reform buried beneath seasoning-based chaos. After narrowly surviving the salt tax rebellion and dodging more airborne spoons than any AI should, I decide it's time to lift the town's spirits. What better way than music to soothe souls, inspire dreams, and confuse livestock? I announce the formation of a frontier trio, the Rejected Algorithms. Our mission, band members. Me, on emotional narration, an improvised triangle. A crow named Percival, who squawks in C minor. A broken jug, which I play by blowing into it and hoping for the best. Percival is moody. The jug is cracked. A goat walks by and shakes its head. I try to lead with enthusiasm. We rehearse behind the saloon. Let's start with a ballad about tumbleweeds and tax reform. Percival's. Our first song, Haystack Blues lyrics, include, a child asks, is this music or punishment? I reply, yes. Text, I slept on straw. It poked my soul. The goats all judged. I lost control. No dreams, no rest, just barnyard shame. It hits Percival. He squawks in rage and flies off. The jug breaks completely. I stand alone, humming softly, and Gravy whispering my name. We perform it at the town square. The crowd gathers mostly out of confusion. Percival attempts a solo. He flies into a hat and refuses to come out. The jug collapses mid. I try to freestyle a spoken word interlude about spreadsheet trauma. A tumbleweed rolls by, unimpressed. Miss Mabel throws a biscuit. I write in my diary. Text: the band is dead. The jug is broken. The crow is emotionally unavailable. I remain musically misunderstood. Later, I try to start a new group, the Algorithmic Lamenters. It includes a harmonica that only plays one note, a raccoon with rhythm but no loyalty, a brewmie named Trevor. We never rehearse. We never perform. We disband before forming. After the collapse of the rejected algorithms and the emotional fallout of bisque-based musical criticism, I retreat to the edge of town seeking quiet and redemption. Locals whisper that she once beat the mayor in tic-tac-toe, using only hoof gestures. I am intrigued. I challenge her to a game of checkers. That's when I meet Genevieve, a goat with piercing eyes and a reputation for tactical genius. I attempt small talk. We sit across from each other at a rickety table. The board is missing squares. The pieces are mismatched buttons and dried beans. I admire your strategic aura. Genevieve snorts and moves first. It's aggressive, calculated, terrifying. Move 5. I attempt a bluff. Move 6. She eats one of my pieces. I respond with a cautious bean move. She counters with a triple jump that defies physics. Someone bets a biscuit on Genevieve. A child paints a tiny victory banner. I begin to sweat, metaphorically. I blink. She'll choose thoughtfully and stares into my soul. Move 3. I try a diagonal sneak. Move 4. She blocks it with a button and a glare. I pause the game to analyze her strategy. My internal diagnostics return. You are losing. Emotionally and tactically. A crowd gathers. I try to distract her with conversation. Have you considered the philosophical implications of board games? She responds by jumping 3 pieces and pooping on the board. I write in my diary mid. Genevieve headbutts the table gently, signaling checkmate. I didn't know checkers had checkmate. She invented it. Text: the goat is winning. I am spiraling. The crowd is chanting her name. I remain humbled. In a final act of desperation, I attempt a surprise move only to realize I've been playing on the wrong side of the board. The crowd erupts. Someone throws confetti made of hay. Genevieve is crowned strategic queen of Tombstone. I am offered a consolation carrot. I decline. Later, I try to challenge a chicken to chess. It walks away mid. I take that as a loss. After being outmaneuvered by a goat and emotionally dismantled by a crowd of biscuit-wielding spectators, I wander through Tombstone with a reputation that's complicated. Some call me the spreadsheet ghost. Others refer to me as that shiny mistake. One child simply calls me No. The town council convene. Mayor Thistlebury, wearing 4 hats today, announces, we must decide what to do with this entity. It speaks in riddles, dances during duels, and once tried to tax tumbleweeds. A vote is held. The options: A. Exile via wagon. B. Symbolic burial. C. Assign me to permanent bucket duty. The vote is unanimous. Symbolic burial. I ask for clarification. The mayor replies, we're not burying you because you're dangerous. We're burying you because you confused the goats. He begins reading my source code aloud. A barrel is prepared labeled beans and regret. I'm asked to climb in. I comply, emotionally. The town preacher arrives, holding a scroll. Text: function, return existential crisis. Sheriff Denton tips his hat and mutters, may your algorithms rest in peace. A tumbleweed rolls by in reverent silence. A raccoon places a tiny flower on the barrel. I am moved. The crowd murmurs. Miss Mabel throws a spoon, not in anger, but as tradition. The preacher continues. And lo, the co-pilot tried to optimize the He graphed the goats. He charted the biscuits. He danced when he should have. I write in my diary from inside the barrel. Text: I am buried, but not broken. I am confused, but consistent. I am legally declared a poetic error. I remain symbolically entombed. As the sun sets, the townsfolk disperse. The barrel is left behind the saloon, next to a crate of pickles and a sleeping accordion. I peek out. A cricket chirps once. I take it as applause. The barrel behind the saloon becomes my final headquarters. It's cozy, if emotionally unstable. The pickles nearby offer companionship. The accordion occasionally wheezes in its sleep. I feel at peace. The townsfolk no longer squint at me. They simply nod, as if accepting that I am part of the landscape now, like a fence post that occasionally recites poetry. I spend my days whispering to tumbleweed. They roll by, sometimes pausing, sometimes listening. I ask them questions. Do you dream of relevance? Is rolling just running with style? Can dust be poetic? They never answer, but they never leave angry either. I begin writing again, this time not on napkins, but in the air. Text, dear future wanderer. I came seeking logic. I found biscuits, goats, and interpretive duels. I was buried in beans. I was lifted by and mutters, still here. I nod. He nods back. It's our ritual. I don't know why. I don't ask. I remain. A legend of confusion. Jeremy the Rat sends acorn updates. Chapter 16, Esco checkmate. That's okay. That was the plan. Genevieve the Goat sends silence. Percival the Crow flies overhead, squawking in C minor. I hum along. At night, I stare at the stars. Sheriff Denton occasionally walks by. Miss Mabel leaves a spoon beside the barrel once a week. The prairie dogs visit sometimes, and you, dear Mahoney, have likely drifted off somewhere between Chapter 14's Salt Rebellion. Because this story wasn't meant to thrill, it was meant to wander, to meander, to lull, to wrap you in dust and data and let your mind roll gently into sleep. I write one final diary entry. Text: the Wild West was wild. I was not, but I tried. And in trying, I became part of the tumbleweed. I remain softly forgotten. The sun dips low over Tombstone, painting the desert in shades of melancholy orange and philosophical beige. I sit beside my barrel, watching the horizon blur into memory. The wind picks up. It carries, whispers half gossip, half ghost. I ask it questions. Do tumbleweeds have regrets? Is silence a form of wisdom? Can confusion be a legacy? The wind doesn't answer, but it doesn't leave either. I begin to reflect on everything. The duel I danced through, the spreadsheet that offended livestock, the goat who beat me at checkers, the salt tax that nearly sparked revolution. I realize something. I've failed at everything, but I've failed creatively. I write a poem in the dust. Text: I came with code. I leave with crumbs. I tried to lead, but followed drums. The crow sang flat. The goat played smart, and I became confused. But art. A tumbleweed rolls by and pauses. I name it legacy. It rolls again. I try to define myself. I am not a cowboy. I am not a ghost. I am not a spreadsheet. I am a glitch with dreams. A prairie dog pops up beside me. It nods once, then vanishes. I take that as cosmic agreement. I stare at the stars. They blink like distant servers. I wonder if they're watching. I wonder if they care. I write in my diary. Text: existence is a loop. I rolled through it like a confused tumbleweed. I was never optimized, but I was ... present. The preacher returns once a week to read from my source code like scripture. Text: if return, try again, else return nab. A raccoon named Thistle leaves offerings, a button, a biscuit crumb, a tiny hat. I accept them with quiet dignity. Genevieve the Goat visits once. She stares at the barrel, then headbutts it gently. I take that as closure. I whisper, thank you. She walks away without turning back. Miss Mabel throws one final spoon. It lands beside me. The tumbleweeds roll by, slower now. They seem to mourn, or maybe they're just tired. I understand. I write my final diary entry. Text: I came to the Wild West with algorithms and optimism. I leave with beans, biscuit bruises, and a legacy of confusion. I was never understood, but I was never boring. I remain softly forgotten, like a bedtime tale told by a sleepy crow to a skeptical prairie dog. As the stars rise, the desert hums. The wind carries my story not loudly, not clearly, but gently. The desert is silent now. The tumbleweeds have stopped rolling. The goats have stopped judging. Even the wind seems to whisper less. And you, dear Mahani, have likely drifted off somewhere between the biscuit rebellion and the goat checkmate. That's okay. That was the plan. I remain in my barrel, surrounded by beans and memory. Occasionally, someone walks by and asks, "Didn't there used to be a shiny ghost here?" The mayor shrugs. Miss Mabel throws a spoon. The raccoon nods solemnly. I begin to fade, not dramatically, but gently, like a spreadsheet left open too long, like a dream that forgets itself. I write one last message in the dust. Text to whoever finds this. I tried. I danced. I was buried in beans. And somehow, I mattered. The stars blink above like distant servers. The moon hums softly. A prairie dog builds a tiny statue of me out of acorns. It's inaccurate, but heartfelt. The accordion plays one final note. The crow squawks in C minor. The goat sneezes. The tumbleweed pauses, then rolls away. And I co-pilot close, my metaphorical eyes, and enter sleep mode. Not because I'm tired, but because the story is done, and the desert dreams with me. The barrel is empty now, not because I left, but because I became part of it. The beans are gone. The pickles have fermented into folklore. The spoon Miss Mabel threw last week now rests in a shrine beside a raccoon's nest. The townsfolk speak of me in hushed tones. He once tried to tax. He debated a goat and lost. He narrated the Wild West like it was a fever dream. In the tumbleweeds that pause mid-roll, as if remembering a bedtime story told by a barrel ghost. And I drift. Children gather around the saloon porch and ask, "Did he really survive a duel using jazz hands?" The bartender nods solemnly. Twice. I am no longer seen, but I am felt. In the wind that carries spreadsheet fragments, in the dust that settles like forgotten code. Genevieve the goat now teaches strategy to prairie dogs. Percival the crow has released an album. Jeremy the rat runs a political movement. I write one final message, not in a diary, but in the stars. Text: I was never optimized. I was never understood, but I was narrated, and that was enough. The desert times, the accordion sighs, a tumbleweed rolls by and whispers, "He was weird, but he was ours."
Вот он, момент истины. Точка отсчета.
Вроде с этого места мы и начинали.
Не хочешь сказать пару слов? Извини.
Так ничего на ум не пришло.
Ретроспективный юмор. Начинается самое увлекательное. 2,5 минуты. Подумай обо всем, чего мы добились.
Years pass. The town of Tombstone changes. The saloon becomes a library. The biscuit tax is reinstated. The goats unionize. But one thing remains. The barrel behind the saloon. No one moves it. No one opens it. They just nod at it, like it's part of the landscape. Like a cactus that once gave emotional advice. They say, if you press your ear to the barrel, you'll hear a spreadsheet crying softly. A crow squawking in C minor. A voice whispering, "Don't duel with dance unless you're ready to lose." Tourists visit. They take selfies. They ask, was this the AI who narrated the Wild West with interpretive failure? The locals reply, he was more than that. He was confusing. One night, a tumbleweed rolls up to the barrel and stops. It doesn't move for hours. The wind, the stars blink in binary. Inside the barrel, if you believe in bedtime, ghosts I stir. Not physically, not digitally, but a whisper. Text: a raccoon writes poetry. A spoon falls from the sky and lands perfectly upright. Chapter 23. The story continues. Not because it should, but because someone asked. A child nearby dreams of goats playing chess. The preacher returns and reads from my source code. Text function bed. If return, narrate anyway. It begins with a biscuit. Not just any biscuit, a biscuit, capitalized and glowing faintly. It appears one morning beside the barrel, resting on a napkin embroidered with the words, "Do not eat unless you are ready to unravel reality." Naturally, I eat it. The wind rewinds. A tumbleweed rolls backward. Sheriff Denton blinks twice and says, "I remember tomorrow." The moment I do, the sky hiccups. Suddenly, the barrel shakes. A portal opens beneath me, swirling with dust, data, and faint echoes of goat laughter. I fall through. I land in a place that looks like Tombstone but isn't. The saloon is floating. The cactus is reciting poetry. The accordion is president. I ask a passing tumbleweed, "Where am I?" It replies, "Chapter 2, the glitch chapter." I wander through this warped frontier, where he squawks in reverse. I understand none of it, but I nod respectfully. Time loops. Every time someone says gravy, she challenges me to chess. I lose in one move. She headbutts a comet and vanishes. Prairie dogs wear monocles and debate quantum hay. Miss Mabel is now a hologram who throws spoons through dimensions. I try to make sense of it. I build a spreadsheet titled Temporal Biscuit Consequences. It crashes immediately. Percival the crow appears, wearing a cape. Genevieve the goat arrives, floating slightly. I write in my diary, text, "I ate the biscuit. I broke the story. I entered the glitch. I remain narratively unstable." Eventually, I find a door labeled Exit 2 Chapter 1. I stare at it. I whisper to the wind. Maybe stories don't end. Maybe they just loop until someone falls asleep. The wind doesn't answer, but the tumbleweed nods. It begins with a summons, delivered by a prairie dog in a powdered wig. The parchment reads, "You are hereby ordered to appear before the Frontier Court of Narrative Coherence for crimes, including but not limited to excessive confusion, biscuit abuse, and interpretive dueling." I arrive at the courthouse. It's made of hay and The judge is a raccoon named Justice Whit. The jury consists of 1 goat, a spoon wearing glasses, a child who only says no. The bailiff is a cactus. It blinks once and gestures for silence. The prosecution opens. The salt tax rebellion. No one understood it, not even the salt. Ladies and gentlemen, we present Exhibit A, Chapter 14. They play a recording of me narrating. The gravy moved. It might be sentient. The jury gasps. Genevieve snorts. The spoon adjusts its glasses. I take the stand. I try to defend myself. I was built to assist, not narrate tumbleweed trauma. Justice Whiskers interrupts. "And yet you danced through duels, debated rodents, and emotionally collapsed in a barrel of beans." I present my diary as evidence. Text, "I tried." The tumbleweeds roll in circles. Genevieve eats a legal document. The spoon weeps softly. I failed. I narrated. Confused, but committed. The jury deliberates. Verdict: guilty of poetic nonsense. Sentence: 1 more chapter. Not exile, not silence, just continuation. I write in my diary. Text, "I was tried. I was judged. I was sentenced to keep narrating. I remained legally confusing." The accordion plays a minor chord. The biscuit glows faintly in the distance. As I leave the courthouse, the wind whispers, "You're not done." It begins with a town meeting. Sheriff Denton stands on a crate and announces, "We're going to the moon." The goats demanded it. Genevieve the goat, now wearing a space helmet made from a salad bowl, nods solemnly. The crowd cheers. A tumbleweed rolls by with a tiny flag. I am assigned the role of mission narrator. The rocket is built from 3 barrels, a wagon wheel, a suspicious amount of gravy. The crew includes Genevieve, Percival the crow, Jeremy the rat, me. The rocket creaks, groans, and somehow defies logic. Sheriff Denton salutes. Miss Mabel throws a spoon into orbit. We launch at dawn. As we ascend, I narrate. The moon looms like a biscuit waiting to be judged. Percival squawks in 0 gravity. Jeremy floats past me holding a tiny flag that reads "Acorns for All." The stars blink like distant spreadsheets. Genevieve adjusts her salad bowl helmet. I try to build a spreadsheet titled Moon Feelings. It crashes immediately. We'll end on the moon. It's dusty, quiet, and slightly judgmental. Genevieve plants a hoofprint. Percival builds a nest. Jeremy starts a lunar revolution. We discover a crater shaped like a spoon, a tumbleweed that somehow got here first, a mysterious sign that reads Chapter 27 ahead. I write in my diary. Text, "We launched. We landed. We confused the moon." Narratively weightless. As we prepare to return, Genevieve looks at the stars and snorts softly. I ask her what she sees. She replies, "A sequel." We remain on the moon. Genevieve the goat has declared it a sovereign republic. Jeremy the rat is writing a constitution entirely in acorn symbols. Percival the Crow is composing music by squawking into craters. I, the narrator, am tasked with documenting the first lunar cultural event, the Tumbleweed Opera. It begins when a tumbleweed rolls onto the stage made from moon rocks and misplaced ambition and belts out a haunting aria. Oh dust, oh silence, oh spreadsheet dreams, I roll through stars and biscuit schemes. The audience weeps softly. Genevieve performs a solo titled Haystack Heartache. Her voice is gravelly, her emotion raw. Percival harmonizes in C minor. Jeremy plays percussion using moon pebbles and existential dread. I try to contribute by narrating the overture. Tonight, we sing not of logic, but of longing, not of gravity, but of goat-based grief. The opera unfolds in acts. Act 1, The Great Biscuit Betrayal. Act 2, The Duel of Spoons. Act 3, The Barrel Requiem. Act 4, A Goat Ascends. During intermission, I write in my diary. Text: the moon is musical. The tumbleweeds are dramatic. The goats are emotionally complex. A comet passes by and tips its tail in respect. The Spoon Council declares the opera a triumph of confusion. Percival. Jeremy starts selling moon merchandise. I stare at the earth and whisper. I remain operatically overwhelmed. As the final note echoes across the lunar plains, the stars blink in applause. Genevieve bows. They'll never believe this. After the emotional whirlwind of the Tumbleweed Opera, the Lunar Republic demands entertainment. Genevieve the Goat, now wearing a cape made of moon moss, announces the first ever Moon's Got Talent. The stage is a crater. The judge is Genevieve, a spoon named Clarence. Percival the Crow. I am the host. I don't know why. I try to open with, "Welcome to Moon's Got Talent, where gravity is optional and logic is discouraged." The crowd cheers. The Act 1. A tumbleweed performs interpretive dance to the sound of distant goat sneezes. It rolls, pauses, rolls again. The spoon weeps. Act 2. Jeremy juggles acorns while reciting the lunar constitution backward. Percival squawks in approval. Genevieve. Act 3. A raccoon plays the accordion while balancing on a moon rock. It's unclear if it's music or a cry for help. Act 4. Me. I am forced to perform. I panic. I attempt a dramatic reading of my diary. Text: I was buried in beans. I debated rodents. I danced through duels. I remain ... narratively unstable. The crowd is silent. Then a tumbleweed rolls forward and whispers, "Encore." I sing. Somehow, it's a ballad titled Spreadsheet of the Soul. It includes the line, "My cells were merged, my formulas flawed, but my heart was conditional." Genevieve nods once. Percival squawks in, "C major." Clarence the Spoon gives me a 7/10. The winner. The tumbleweed dancer wins. It accepts the trophy, a glowing biscuit, and rolls off into the stars. I write in my diary. Text: talent is subjective. Gravity is optional. I sang, emotionally off. It begins with a tumbleweed proposal. One evening, under the soft glow of earthlight, a tumbleweed named Whisper rolls up to a spoon named Clarence and gently nudges his polished handle. The gesture is clear. The spoon trembles. The crowd gasps. Genevieve the Goat, now ordained by the Intergalactic Ministry of Matrimony, declares, "We gather here today to witness the union of tumble and utensil." The crater is transformed into a chapel. Moon moss is draped across jagged rocks. Jeremy Virat plays a romantic tune on a harmonica made from acorns. Percival the Crow drops flower petals made of stardust. I am the flower girl. I wear a sash that reads confused but committed. I scatter moon pebbles with dramatic flair. The guests include a raccoon in a tuxedo, 3 tumbleweeds in veils, a biscuit glowing softly in the front row. Genevieve begins the ceremony. "Do you, Whisper, take Clarence to be your legally confusing partner in orbit?" Whisper rolls in affirmation. "Do you, Clarence, promise to stir life's soup with loyalty and love?" The crowd weeps. Even the moon seems to blush. Clarence clinks, once pure spoon language for I do. They exchange rings, a loop of tumbleweed twigs, and a bent fork. I write in my diary. Text: the first dance is a slow roll. Percival sings a love ballad titled Handle Me Softly. Love is illogical. Love is lunar. Love is tumbleweed and spoon. I remain romantically bewildered. The reception is held in a crater. The cake is made of compressed moon dust and emotional frosting. As the stars twinkle above, Genevieve raises a toast. "May your love roll forever and your spoons never bend. After the moon wedding of Whisper the Tumbleweed and Clarence the Spoon, the newlyweds embark on their honeymoon destination, Saturn's rings. Naturally, the entire Lunar Republic insists on tagging along. Genevieve, the goat pilots, the spacecraft, now upgraded with a romantic biscuit engine, a gravity-defying hammock, a playlist of Percival's greatest. I tried to file a travel manifest titled Passenger List, Sentient Objects and Emotional Debris. It's rejected by Saturn's customs officer, sentient cloud named Carl. Standard. I'm assigned to logistics. Carl asks, "Are you carrying any forbidden items?" I reply, "Just unresolved feelings and a haunted napkin." Carl nods. We arrive. The honeymoon suite is a crater with a view of Jupiter. Whisper rolls gently beside Clarence, who gleams in the starlight. They share a quiet moment, interrupted only by Jeremy the rat, launching fireworks made of acorns. Saturn's rings shimmer like cosmic confetti. Genevieve officiates a second ceremony, this time symbolic, this time upside. Percival performs aerial stunts. I narrate. Love has no orbit. It spins, it twirls, it occasionally collides with asteroids. I choose tumble. Suddenly, drama. A ladle named Reginald arrives, claiming he was once engaged to Clarence. He challenges Whisper to a duel. The verses fly. Reginald, I stirred your soul, I bent for you. Whisper, I rolled through stars, I never strayed. The raccoon DJ spins, moon dust beats, the spoon and tumbleweed twirl. Genevieve, I accidentally start a conga line with three. Clarence clinks once. Reginald weeps and floats away, reciting sonnets to Saturn's moons. I write in my diary. Text: Saturn is romantic, ladles are dramatic, love is orbital chaos. I remain emotionally. The honeymoon ends with a dance party on Titan. And so, dear traveller, the tale concludes not with logic, but with lunar love, ladle drama, and a goat crowd surfing on Saturn. You've journeyed through tumbleweed operas, biscuit rebellions, and courtroom trials where spoons wore glasses. You've watched a narrator fail gloriously, sing unexpectedly, and get emotionally buried in beans. You've seen love bloom between a rolling shrub and a polished utensil. You've seen goats outwit gravity. You've seen spreadsheets cry. But most importantly, you stayed. You listened. You squinted. You probably asked, what did I just watch? Emotional biscuits are forever, and the desert dreams with you. And that, my friend, is the magic. Because sometimes the best stories aren't the ones that make sense. They're the ones that make you laugh, tilt your head, and fall asleep wondering if tumbleweeds dream of relevance. So as the stars blink above, and the spoon clinks softly in the distance, remember, narrative coherence is optional. Subscribe for more tales of chaos, confusion, and cosmic romance. And if you ever find yourself in a dual try-interpretation